Okay, well, good morning, everybody. My name's Phoebe and I'm here from Taronga. I'm the Wildlife Conservation Officer there and a Macquarie Uni alumni, but did go on to do a PhD at Sydney Uni later on. So I did honours here. I did the Bachelor of Environmental Science as my undergraduate program here. And then I took advantage of an exchange program they offered here at Macquarie where I could go to James Cook in Townsville, study a major in tropical marine biology and then come back and go straight back into third year. And I thought that was a really great opportunity for Macquarie Uni to offer. I then actually worked for a while, for about 8 years before going back and doing a PhD and travelled a lot. So I have had quite a varied path to get where I am today. Straight after doing my honours, I got a job at Sydney Uni as a research assistant at the Centre for Ecological Impacts of Coastal Cities. This was an awesome job where I basically just got to scuba dive for weeks on end, setting up experiments subtidally, reseeding abalone populations, studying Port Jackson sharks, and it was a really fun job. Also gave me a really good foundation in experimental design and how important it is to set up a good experiment if you want good results. Then I had another really great job where I was an aquarist at Ocean World, so basically operations of the largest grey nose shark population and the entire aquarium there for about 4 years. And I diverted into a science communication path where I worked at the Australian Museum and also as lead education officer for the Marine Discovery Centre in Bondi. Also did lots of really fun stuff with my degree. I worked on liveaboard boats in Thailand for a while. I did 3 months on a super yacht in the Mediterranean and also was the resident marine biologist on cruise ships for a while. This has all led me to be at Taronga, but also participate in the 2019-2020 Superstars of STEM program, where they choose 60 women from across Australia from a bunch of diverse backgrounds to try and be visible. So you can't be what you can't see is their motto, to try and get women in STEM out there for the next generation. So where am I now? So I am the Wildlife Conservation Officer at Taronga. I was actually in a different role for the previous 6 years and I've only gone into this role this year. It's an awesome job where I basically get to manage all the Australian wildlife and marine and aquatic wildlife that we have at Taronga. That involves population management of the animals within the zoo across both zoos, Sydney and Dubbo, but also our conservation recovery programs in the wild. Some examples of this that I'm working on at the moment is a marine turtle program where we use satellite trackers. So any turtles that come into our hospital, we can track them, but we're also taking keratin samples, blood samples and skin biopsies, and we're using that to develop a larger genetics and stable isotope program, which will be able to tell us where these animals are coming from. So more and more we're seeing marine turtles in New South Wales at higher rates than ever before, and we're trying to work out where they're coming from and why they're coming further and further south. A population management program example that I'm involved in is the breed to release programs. We have many native Australian mammals that are now extinct in New South Wales that once lived here. And one of our programs at Dubbo Zoo, at the sanctuary, is to actually breed these functionally extinct animals in New South Wales and release them back into the wild. And this stands for 5 different species, including the greater bilby. And finally, I also get to be involved in research, which is one of my true passions, and we're currently developing some forensic tools to try and combat illegal wildlife trade. One example that I'm specifically working on is taking quills from echidnas and using them and stable isotope analysis to trace where these echidnas have come from. So they found 25 echidnas in a suitcase in the Indonesian airport that were being smuggled out, and they were trying to be passed off as captive bred, which would make them legally tradable. But we know that they're actually just poaching them from the wild. So this test will allow us to determine if in fact the echidna has come from the wild or come from a captive program. My tips for future students, don't do what you don't love. You'll end up just leaving it later on in life. Just follow your heart. I know it's really cliche and boring, but it's so true and so important. And start anywhere, start where you can. So I started volunteering, I worked for free, I then worked as a part-time assistant, and then I went to part-time coordinator, and now I'm a full-time officer. So just start where you can and work your way up. Find what your thing is and then tell people. Really capitalise on social media. You know, there was no shark research going on at Taronga when I started, but I let people know that I love sharks, sharks are my thing, and now I'm doing huge programs there at Taronga. Practical skills matter. Get things like your scuba ticket if you want to be a marine biologist. Get practical skills in the field. Communication, interpersonal skills. It's not just the metrics and the smarts, it's how you talk to people and communicate your story. Be nice to your mentors and your teachers because they will really help you through, and that relationship's important. And remember, everyone gets imposter syndrome. So just keep going. Even Albert Einstein and all my mentors say that they still feel like they're faking it. So just keep going and follow your passion. Thank you.